Alright, today I'll be showing you how to make one of these wooden frames for canvas. So, this is made out of 2x4s, alright? 2x4 pine that you just find at the lumber yard. Any local lumber yard will have this, and when you actually do receive it, it's going to be too wet. Okay, so if you all of a sudden want to actually build this just from regular lumber, it's going to be too moist. Okay, so average wood that comes from the lumber yard is going to be around 12% moisture. All right, I kept this in my house for about a year. All right, you stack it on the floor, you space every single piece of wood in between with little shims, and then you let it dry. Okay, if you don't let it dry, it's going to warp, it's going to buckle, it's going to twist. All right on the wall. So after you paint your painting, get it all in there, and it's going to start to warp after a month, and it won't lie flat against the wall. What I did was I purchased one of these moisture meters. Okay, this moisture meter, you just stab it in the wood. Okay, and then it has a reading. It takes a reading of whatever the wood is, so you can see if it comes up on the. So what this has, all the percentage of moisture along the side here, right? So you use this to indicate if your wood is ready or not. And this is an imperative step if you actually don't want to use properly dried, kiln dried wood. Yeah, you can go and buy it. Make sure that it's indoors where you buy your wood, because if it's not indoors, then your wood's not going to be the moisture level that you want. And also, the reason why I put this wood inside my house is because it's going to be hanging in my house, right? So if you had, for instance, average wood in your house is say 10% or 8%, and all of a sudden the kiln drying wood is 5%, you're still going to be getting warpage, right? So this is specific to my house. Most houses, they're going to be relatively the same for moisture content, but it is what it is. And I'll give you a step-by-step tutorial, I guess, on how I made this. I don't have a jointer, I don't have a planer, I don't have anything to make the wood square. So what I did is used whatever tools that I did have. I have to have a sliding compound miter saw, table saw, and stuff like that, so it makes it a lot easier. This wood is 1.25 inches thick, so it'll be 1.25 inches squared here. And then you can see it's coming out on video here. There's a taper over here. Okay, so when the canvas lies against it, it's not going to be lying on 1.25 inches. Okay, surface. It's going to be probably just half of that with this taper right here. There's a brace in the middle, just in case. When you pull the canvas in between here, these aren't going to sag inside or warp inside. Okay, so just a few things that I'll take you through here. All this can be done with just a circular saw. If all you had is a circular saw, you could probably get away with it, or in combination with a jigsaw, but a circular saw should probably do all of this. It'd be a little bit more difficult, a little bit more time consuming, but it can be done. But I'll take you through all the steps and procedures that I use to actually do my wooden frames for canvas. All right, let's get to it. All right, so I'm making a frame for canvas. So I'm just going to take you through some steps that I do to ensure that it turns out the way I want it to. All right, so I'm just measuring out my pieces right now. So I want to have my 2-foot piece, and I'm just going to, so I'm going to measure this about 1/4 inch longer than I want, because I want to be able to just trim off this end piece. Okay, so I'm just squaring it up right now with my speed square. All right, so I have my 2-foot piece. Okay, this is the regular 2x4 that you find at the lumber yard. Okay, and right now, just trying to figure out how wide it is. A 2x4 isn't 2 inches by 4 inches, so we got to figure out what the middle is, because when we split these in half, okay, and this is going to be my frame here. Okay, so it says, hope this is coming out in the camera here, 3 7/16, and if you divide that in half, it is pretty much, without splitting hairs, well, technically it's 1 and 23/32, but we'll say 1 3/4, more or less. And we're just going to split this in half. But you'll see over here, hopefully it comes out, this is bowed. Okay, now what we're going to be trying to do here now is squaring these up as well as possible. Okay, now that's the trick. I'll take you through that. So here's the finished product. Now, if you can see that, you look at the bottom and over here. Where's that coming out here? That is not square. So now we got to try to find how to get that square. Okay. So I don't have a planer. All right. And I don't have a joiner. So this process now would be the easiest with a planer and a joiner. All right. But this is kind of the poor man's method of doing that. Now this is the key part though, right, is getting everything square when you're making these frames. All right, I'm just going to shave off this rounded end right here so I get onto flat wood. Okay. It's getting there slowly but surely. Alright, so you'll notice that there's going to be high spots. So I'm going to get this as flat as possible. Okay, so there's going to be a high spot right here. And there's going to be a high spot right here. So I'm going to be planing these sides down to make this as flat as possible. Alright, so this is probably as flat as possible. Okay, the reason why I'm doing this is because if I put this side on the fence, okay, and I want to cut this side, and this side will be on the fence, basically whatever's on the fence will duplicate what the saw cuts. Alright, so if you have a crooked part on the fence, it's going to duplicate that crooked cut on the cut side, okay? Alright, so now I'm just going to be taking off just a little bit. So I adjust my saw, so I'm probably taking off about 1 millimeter just to get this side flat, right? To match this plain side, okay? That I believe is totally flat. Alright, so now that I feel that I've got most of the bow out on this side and this side, okay, now I'm going to have to make sure that this thickness, okay, is the same as this thickness. So I got a little bit of work to do on this side. Alright, now I'm going to have to repeat the process to make sure that I get all the bow, alright, and make this as flat as possible on one of these sides, okay? Right, because I'm going to be putting this side against the fence, let's say, and this is totally flat, okay, and if this isn't flat, it's going to duplicate whatever's on this side over here on the cut side, okay, so I'm going to do that now. Alright, so I'm just going to give a better explanation of what I mean by square here. Alright, so right now I'm just checking for square and seeing all the spots that I have to actually knock down to achieve square to this side. and this side. Okay, so I'm just gonna butt this up together and just check. Okay, that looks good. So I'm just running the square along. So it looks good so far. And keeping on running here. And then you'll notice, okay, it's not gonna probably come out as well as I would like, but there's a little bit of a high spot right over here. Okay, so you just take your pencil and mark out where the high spot is, okay? And you'll notice over here, let's see if it comes out here. It's better to do this in the daylight. And then there's a spot over here, that's a little bit high as well, right? So I took my pencil and I marked out where all the high spots are. Now I double checked this as well on the other side, right? Because this side should match this side, right? Because I took this side on the fence, I cut this side. So now we check the work. And I ran my square all the way down and it matched, okay, exactly what I had on this side, right? So I matched both sides and they came out even. All right, now I'm just going to be either sanding, right? Either sanding, or I'll just take my plane and just plane off these edges. All right. All right, so now I'm going to measure exactly how wide this piece is, or from side to side here. Obviously this is wider, so I'm going to take this, butt it up, okay. That's how wide that is. And now I'm going to have to trim off this piece over here. Okay. All right, so we have equal dimensions. Now I'm just going to check for square all the way down. So it's nicer to come out in the sun to do this. And you can kind of, here I can't even see this in the monitor here. Hopefully this is coming out, but yeah, so it's looking pretty good. There's a little high spots here and there. You can see there's a little guy over here, so maybe just I'll end up sanding this little end over here, but then it looks good all the way down. And the last side. And the last side, let's have a look over here. Yeah, it's looking good. So this is kind of a quick and dirty method. It does work. It takes a little bit more work, but I don't have to invest in all the crazy tools to make wood square. So I'll be doing this to all the pieces. It's a little bit more extra work, but if you're going to have a painting on the wall, you don't want this to be lopsided, because when you're cutting your 45s, all right, to butt them all together, it makes it hell if you don't have it right. All right, so all 4 pieces are cut. Now you'll notice that some of these are just vary in size, right, in thickness. So they might be like a millimeter out here and there, right? So an easy way to remedy it and to have all these pieces be the perfect thickness is take the smallest piece, okay, which happens to be this one, and on this side, all right, so you'll notice that it's out just a fraction right here. So I set the fence to just skim off of this piece, and then basically the template's set, right? So now we just have to just run them really quickly through all these pieces on all sides. Takes a couple minutes, but then you don't have to worry about piecing them together and having odd shapes when you do your 45s. All right, for that extra 2 minutes of work, now all these pieces are exactly the same dimensions, okay? Now I don't have to worry about the 45s not joining up properly. So when the rubber hits the road, when I'm putting those 45s together, I'll be like, oh, thank God I took that extra, literally a minute to do these, right? Because then you'll be sanding and jerry-rigging and it'll all look goofy. So this is perfect. All right, so I'm getting ready to cut my 45s. But before I do that, I want to make sure my my saw is true, right? There's little numbers on the side here, and this is saying it is on 45 because it's locking in place, but how do I know it's really 45? Right, I cut my 45 thinking that the saw is exactly accurate, right? All of a sudden it doesn't piece together properly in the end, right? So I'm just checking it with the straight edge and the 45 here. So this will tell me whether or not my saw is adjusted properly. And see that wiggle right there? I hope you're getting this on camera. I can't see in the sun. So I'm going to have to adjust my fence. Okay? So I'll get back to you. Alright, so I'm just going to mark up my 45s now. Alright, so I got my square here, and you'll find at the end of these squares our little marking tool. Okay? So it's very sharp, very accurate. So if I wanted to take a pencil, for instance, if your pencil was a little bit dull, let's say, it's not going to get a perfect marking. Alright, so just going to take it right at the tip here. This is coming out. Right at the tip. No bump in the camera. I'll just mark by 45. So I'm just scoring the wood right now. And there we go. But remember, this 45 is only as accurate as this is flat. So hopefully I did my work properly so that this is a true 45. Alright, so I'm just getting my cut ready, making sure everything's flush, solid to the fence, and make sure you clamp it down right here. If you think you can hold it, you're fooling yourself. I've done this before and all of a sudden I'll hold this piece of board straight, that won't move, and it will move. Trust me, then all of a sudden all that work is in vain. Alright, so here's the finished cut. Now we just gotta check to see if it is 45. Let's have a look here. Alright, let's line it up. Is there any light coming through? Nope, that looks like a pretty good cut. So, let's see if I can duplicate that. Alright, so we have one last cut to do to all these pieces. Alright, so as you can see, my 45s are cut. Now we're going to have to do another 45-degree cut, okay? Because we're going to need a taper, alright, from this point on. Right, because when the canvas lies flat upon this piece of wood here, we don't want the canvas to lie on this part, okay? We basically want the canvas to be free floating basically from this point on, right? So you're going to start here with a taper and it's going to go all the way through here. So what I've done is I adjusted my blade to 45 degrees and put the fence as close to the blade as you can. Generally speaking, you don't want to put the fence on this side of the blade. Usually it goes on this side, all right? But for this purpose, I need to do it. There's little screws right over here. I'm going to adjust. Okay, there's little screws right over here that protrude up slightly. That's why you don't want to be going on this side, right? Because there's a little bit of a gap here. It's not perfectly flush to the table, but it is what it is. So I'm going to run this through here like that. So right now I'm in the process of gluing up the frame here. I'm just applying the glue right now. Just spread the glue on. You don't need very much glue. A little bit goes a long way. Alright, so I'm just kind of spreading on the excess. And this glue sets up pretty quickly. Alright, so once we got all this glue on, we'll piece it back together. Just piece it together into these corners here. All right. Okay. All right, now I'm just going to tighten up these corners. All right, while the glue is still soft, come along to all these corners and just kind of wipe it off. And on the underside too, on all four corners. All right, check to make sure everything is even on all four corners. And then we're going to check for square. And then if it isn't square, we kind of make adjustments from there. A little bit more over here. All right, so we are just making a few more adjustments here, just to make sure that everything is square, because the glue hasn't quite set fully yet, but looks like we're pretty good here. So we don't have much time to waste. If there is any adjustments, you kind of want to do it now, if you need to. Because once that glue sets, that's it. And square. All right. It's sure a lot more handier having this framing clamp to hold everything in place. Because right now we're just going to glue it, let it sit overnight, and then we'll put our screws in just to give it an extra bit of stability once the glue is dry. And I'll take you through that as well. All right, it's the next day. All the glue has set. All right, now I'm in the process of drilling my pilot holes for my screws I'm going to be putting in the ends here. So I'm going to do the screw a little bit off center because I don't want the intersecting screw to hit it as well on the other side. So I'll start there, drill a quick pilot hole. Looks good. Now we'll do the other side as well. That should probably do the trick right there. Just want to make sure that you have enough wood here, because we got this angle over here, right? This 45 that we cut. I don't want the screw going through that. So that looks good about right there. All right. So we'll screw this in there. All right, so the reason why we do these pilot holes is just to make sure that if I just drilled a screw right in here, there could be risk of it splitting up here. So all this work would have to be done again. Or you'd have to use wood filler or some kind of technique to remedy it. But for now, we're just going to be doing the pilot holes. All right, so this is the screw that I'm going to be using. Okay, it's 1 1/4 inch, I do believe, and the screw needs to lay flush. Okay, now if you were to screw this screw all the way in, you'll notice that there's a taper on the screw head right here. This could also make the wood split as well, right? So what I'm going to be doing is just make a little indentation with this drill bit right here. So this drill bit matches the diameter of the screw head, okay? Usually there's chamfering tools that you can get, but I happen not to have that bit available right now. So I'm just going to take this drill bit, line it up with the hole, and just give it a little chamfer, just so it lies flat. Just something small like that. I'll probably just do a little bit more. It just cleans up the job. Okay, and that'll help it lie flat. And there we go. So that will not lie perfectly flat now, and the wood won't split. And all these little tidbits along the edges, I'll just be giving the whole thing a sand anyway, so it works out good that way. So I'm going to be doing this to all four corners now. Alright, so right now I'm just taking the time to give it a quick sand here, just to cut down on the hard edges that the canvas is going to be lying on, especially around the corners here. If you have a tough edge or a tough corner, that could, depending on the thickness of your canvas, this could probably tear, because you're going to be stretching the canvas pretty tightly, right? So I want to make sure that all these hard edges are taken down, right? Let's see if this is coming out here. So yeah, see that? That's pretty sharp right there. So you're going to be wanting to kind of round that down. What I usually do is use a router and just do a round over bit. I may even do that here, but for now I'm just going to sand it all the way along the sides. You know, these blemishes right over here aren't a huge deal, right? Because it's obviously going to be covered with canvas. But yeah, just give it a quick sand afterwards. So far it's looking good. Finished sanding, and now I'm just going to put a brace in the middle of this. This is probably not necessary, but as this is only 3 feet long, right? So when you're going to be stretching the canvas, some pressure is going to be forced upon the sides here. You don't want it to warp inside, okay? You don't want to bow inside. So I put a brace in here. Okay, this brace is 5/8 of an inch thick, okay? And it doesn't really matter how wide it is. This happens to be 1 1/4 inches, okay? So this brace is 1 1/4 inches thick by 5/8 wide, okay? So we just gotta find the center point. And I glued it in there already. And now we just gotta adjust it. And then I'm gonna screw it into the sides here. Like I said, this probably isn't really all that necessary, but just in case, right? It takes an extra minute of work to cut a piece of wood. I may as well do it right. And then just square it up. Okay, that looks good. And that looks good too. All right, now I'm just gonna screw it like I did the corners over here, right? And I'll just put one screw here and on the other side, and then we're pretty much finished.